You see, the very first reason why women deeply respect certain men above others starts with something most people overlook: self-respect. It sounds simple, maybe even obvious, but the truth is, many men are out here trying to get respect from women before they've ever taken the time to respect themselves. Let me ask you something. How can someone value you if you don't value yourself first? Women are intuitive, and they can feel it when a man carries himself with dignity. It's in how he walks into a room, how he talks to people, how he responds when he's disrespected. It's not about being loud or aggressive. No, it's in his presence. A man who respects himself doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. He doesn't overextend himself to impress. He doesn't beg for love. He doesn't tolerate low-effort behavior. Not from women, not from friends, not from anyone. And listen, when you truly have self-respect, you're not afraid to say no. You're not afraid to walk away from a situation that doesn't align with your values. That's power. Because too often, men confuse being nice with being passive. They allow themselves to be walked over in the name of love, thinking that if they give more, tolerate more, endure more, then maybe she'll see their worth. But that's not how it works. That's not how respect is built. Respect is not given to the man who sacrifices his standards. It's given to the man who stands on them, even if it means losing people. You want to know what women silently test for? They test whether you'll fold, whether you'll abandon yourself to keep their approval, whether you're just putting on a show to win them over, or if what you stand for is real. And the moment you start compromising who you are to keep her, is the moment she starts losing respect for you. It's subtle, but it's real. The calls get fewer, the texts lose energy, the admiration fades. Not because you weren't good to her, but because you weren't good to you. A man with self-respect protects his time. He doesn't jump at every call. He values his schedule, his boundaries, his rest. And not in a rude or arrogant way, but in a grounded, balanced way. He gives from overflow, not depletion. That's the kind of man who attracts attention without even trying, because women are drawn to stability, and self-respect is emotional stability. It also shows up in how you treat yourself, how you eat, how you speak about yourself, how you dress, how you carry yourself when no one's watching. Women watch that. They watch how you talk to the waiter, how you treat your own goals, and if you treat yourself like you don't matter, eventually that's how they'll treat you too. And here's what most people don't realize. Self-respect isn't about being perfect. It's about consistency. It's about staying committed to who you say you are. It's about not lowering your standards just because you're lonely. It's about not begging for crumbs when you deserve a seat at the table. Women can sense when a man moves like he knows his worth. And that kind of energy, that quiet, unshakable confidence, that's magnetic. That's unforgettable. So before you go chasing someone else's respect, pause and ask, do I respect myself enough to walk away when I'm not being valued? Because the man who respects himself first never has to ask for it from anyone else. And when a man truly walks in that kind of self-respect, women don't just notice, they remember, continue to stare into the distance. She didn't understand why this uneasiness was building inside her body. Let's talk about emotional control. Because if there's one quality that separates the kind of man women like from the kind of man they deeply respect, it's this. Emotional control is one of the strongest signals of real masculine power. Not the kind that needs to dominate a room, but the kind that holds the room without saying a word. Too many men think strength is all about what you say or how hard you can hit back. But real strength, it's about how well you can stay grounded when things around you start shaking. And let's be honest, life will shake you. People will disappoint you. Women will test you. Challenges will push your buttons, but the man who keeps his cool when everyone else is losing theirs, that man earns instant respect. You see, emotional control doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you're not ruled by those feelings. It's about choosing your response instead of being dragged around by impulse. When you can pause, breathe, and respond from a place of clarity, that's strength. That's leadership. And women notice that. They respect it. Because whether they admit it out loud or not, they want a man who can lead emotionally, not just financially or physically. Let's paint a picture. Imagine a disagreement in a relationship. Emotions are high, voices rising. She says something hurtful, maybe even crosses a line. Now, most men react. They snap back. They try to win the argument, or they shut down completely. But the man with emotional control, he doesn't let his ego take the wheel. He doesn't get pulled into chaos. He listens, processes, and responds with calm authority. That moment right there tells her everything she needs to know about who you are under pressure. Because it's easy to be composed when things are going well, but respect is built in the storm. How do you carry yourself when you're angry, frustrated, or rejected? Can you stay grounded? Can you lead the situation without losing your sense of self? If the answer is yes, then believe me, that's when she looks at you differently. Emotional control also shows up in discipline, the ability to delay gratification, to not chase every distraction or react to every temptation. Whether it's handling your finances, setting goals, or resisting unnecessary drama, your ability to regulate your emotions is directly tied to the level of trust and respect you'll receive, especially from women. Because here's what most men don't realize. When a woman doesn't feel emotionally safe around you, she can't respect you long term. And emotional safety doesn't come from sweet words or gifts. It comes from consistency, from knowing that no matter how crazy life gets, you're not going to fall apart. You're not going to lash out. You're not going to spiral. You're going to stand strong and make her feel safe standing beside you. That's why a man who leads with his emotions, who reacts before thinking, who lets anger or insecurity control his actions, often loses more than just respect. He loses trust, he loses attraction, because women don't just want a man who looks strong, they want a man who is strong, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And emotional control doesn't mean being cold. It means being steady. It means being able to feel pain without turning it into chaos, to feel love without losing your identity, to feel pressure without breaking your character. That balance, that maturity, is what separates the boys from the men. So, if you want to be the kind of man who doesn't just get attention but gets respect, start with how you handle your emotions. Because when a man can master himself, everything else starts falling into place. There's something deeply attractive, almost magnetic, about a man who knows where he's going. You can see it in the way he moves, the way he speaks, the way he prioritizes his time. He's not just living day by day. He's driven, purposeful, focused. And let me tell you something. Women notice that. They may not always be able to explain it, but they feel it. A man with a clear sense of purpose naturally commands respect, not just from women, but from everyone around him. Purpose gives you direction. It gives your life structure. And when you live with structure, you don't just react to whatever the world throws at you. You become intentional about your choices. Your energy is no longer scattered. You're not chasing attention. You're not trying to impress. You're building something. You're becoming someone. And that energy, that's what makes people stop and take you seriously. The truth is, a man without purpose becomes easily distracted. He gets pulled into drama. He wastes time in situations that don't grow him. And eventually people start to sense it, even if he's charming, even if he's attractive. Because when you don't have something you're working toward, you start looking for your identity in other people. And that's when things start to unravel. That's when you start tolerating relationships that go nowhere. That's when you start depending on a woman to give you a sense of value instead of walking in your value already. And let's be clear, it's not about being rich, or famous. It's not about having it all figured out. It's about waking up every day knowing you're moving in a direction that matters to you. It could be building a business, mastering a skill, serving a cause, becoming a better father, a better man. Whatever it is, it anchors you, it grounds you in discipline, and that discipline becomes visible. You start carrying yourself differently. You speak with conviction. You move with intention. And that's when respect starts to grow. Quietly, powerfully. Women especially admire men who have a mission. Because when you have purpose, you don't become emotionally dependent. You don't become possessive or insecure. Why? Because you don't need her to feel whole. You want her, but you're not defined by her. You have a life, a path, a reason for being. That's what creates emotional safety. That's what makes a woman feel like she's not just with a man, she's with a leader. But here's the thing. Purpose requires sacrifice. It means saying no to temporary pleasures. It means making decisions that others may not understand. It means being misunderstood sometimes, even by the people closest to you. But if you abandon your purpose to please someone else, you lose more than direction. You lose respect. Because the moment a woman sees that you can be easily swayed, easily distracted, easily broken off course, she starts questioning your strength. She may not say it, but she feels it. And don't confuse being busy with being purposeful. Some men stay busy just to avoid stillness, but true purpose is quiet. It doesn't always need to announce itself. It's not about being loud. It's about being rooted. You know who you are, you know what matters, and because of that, you don't entertain nonsense. You don't argue for attention. You don't chase validation. You're already validated by the work you're doing, the man you're becoming. So if you're wondering why certain men are admired, respected, even followed, it's not because they're perfect. It's because they live for something beyond just being liked. They are mission-driven. And that sense of purpose becomes magnetic. It creates an energy that speaks louder than words. Let's talk about confidence. Real confidence. Not the loud kind that tries to prove a point in every room. Not the one that walks around puffed up, bragging about accomplishments. I'm talking about the kind that's quiet, grounded, and undeniable. Because the truth is, women deeply respect men who carry themselves with that calm, steady kind of confidence. The kind that doesn't come from what you have, but from who you are. You can spot it instantly. He doesn't need to compete. He doesn't need to put anyone down to lift himself up. He knows what he brings to the table, and he doesn't mind eating alone if he has to. That's the energy women find irresistible, because it feels secure. It feels stable. And most of all, it feels real. Confidence isn't about never being afraid or never having doubts. It's about not letting those things control you. It's about trusting yourself even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. It's about being okay with not being the loudest in the room because you know your presence is already speaking volumes. You don't need to chase the spotlight when you've already built your own light. And let's be honest, there's a huge difference between confidence and arrogance. Arrogance is fragile. It always needs to be seen, always needs validation. But real confidence, it's secure in silence. It doesn't flinch when it's challenged. It listens more than it speaks. And when it does speak, people listen. Because it's coming from a place of substance, not ego. Women pick up on this very quickly. They can tell when a man is just performing confidence versus when he lives it. And often, the most confident men aren't trying to impress, they're just showing up fully as themselves. They speak their truth, not to convince anyone, but because that's simply who they are. And they're okay if not everyone agrees. That kind of grounded presence is powerful. It's rare, and it commands respect naturally. You know what else real confidence looks like? Being secure enough to be kind. Not performative kindness to get something back, but genuine kindness that doesn't need an audience. A confident man doesn't feel threatened by someone else's success. He's not jealous. He's not competitive in a petty way, because he knows his lane, and he's too focused on running his race to worry about what someone else is doing. He also doesn't over-explain himself. He doesn't chase closure, chase conversations, or beg for attention. If something doesn't align, he lets it go with grace. That's because confidence breeds detachment. Not emotional coldness, but emotional clarity. The ability to say, I want this, but I don't need it to feel whole. That right there is one of the most attractive and respected qualities a man can carry. Women respect that because it shows emotional maturity, it shows strength, and it shows that your sense of self isn't tied to how she feels about you today. That you're still going to wake up tomorrow and be that man, with or without applause. Confidence also means being okay with imperfection. You're not trying to come across as flawless. You're just showing up as real. When a man owns both his strengths and his flaws without shame, he becomes someone others can trust. He becomes someone people want to follow, listen to, and be around. At the end of the day, women don't respect confidence because it looks good. They respect it because it feels good. It feels safe. It feels solid. And in a world full of noise and insecurity, a man who knows who he is without needing to be loud about it is a rare and powerful presence. If there's one thing that builds long-term respect faster than anything else, it's integrity. You can have charm, money, good looks, but if your words don't match your actions, if people can't count on what you say, the respect eventually fades. Because deep down, we're all watching. We're watching how people move, especially when no one's clapping. And women? They're paying attention to the details most men think don't matter. A man of integrity stands out because he does what he says he's going to do, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one's watching, even when it costs him something. That consistency is powerful. It creates trust. And without trust, there can't be respect. Especially not from a woman who values herself. Because she's not just listening to what you say, she's watching how you live. We live in a time where a lot of people talk a big game. They say the right things, post the right quotes, make all the promises. But when it comes down to it, their character folds under pressure. But integrity isn't tested when things are easy. It's tested when keeping your word is hard. When no one would even know if you cut corners. When standing on principle means standing alone. That's where real respect is born. When a man has integrity, he's not swayed by the opinions of the crowd. He's not doing things just for applause. He doesn't bend his values to impress anyone. He's the same person in public that he is in private. And because of that, people, especially women, feel safe around him. They know he's not pretending. They know what they see is what they're actually getting. That honesty builds a foundation for deep respect and trust. Think about it. How can a woman fully respect a man if she's never sure when he's telling the truth? If she has to guess whether his actions today will match his promises tomorrow? That kind of uncertainty chips away at admiration. But a man who leads with integrity, who stands on principle even when it's unpopular, that man becomes rare. And rare things are valuable. It's not about being perfect. Every man makes mistakes. But the man with integrity owns them. He doesn't lie to cover up his flaws. He doesn't blame others when he falls short. He takes responsibility, learns the lesson, and grows. That humility, combined with honesty, is something most people aren't used to seeing. And when a woman sees it in a man, she doesn't just respect him, she honors him. Integrity also shows up in how you treat people who can do nothing for you, how you speak about others behind their backs, how you handle temptation when no one's around to hold you accountable. That's the real test of character. And believe it or not, women pick up on it. They see how you treat the waitress. They hear how you talk about your ex. They watch how you handle rejection, stress, and power. All of that adds up. Respect comes from consistency, and consistency comes from integrity, because a man who lies to others usually lies to himself first. And if you can't be real with yourself, it's only a matter of time before the mask falls off. So if you want the kind of respect that lasts longer than the moment, you've got to build your life on something solid. You've got to decide what your standards are, and then actually live by them. And here's the thing, integrity isn't something you announce, it's something people feel. You don't have to say, "I'm a man of my word." They'll already know. They'll feel it in your consistency, in your calm, in your confidence, in the quiet strength that comes from knowing you're not pretending. You know, the most misunderstood qualities in a man is leadership. People hear the word and immediately think of control, telling others what to do, making all the decisions, being the loudest voice in the room. But real leadership, it's none of that. It's not about domination or barking orders. It's about direction, presence, and emotional intelligence. And the kind of man women respect the most is the one who knows how to lead, not with fear, but with clarity, strength, and calm authority. Leadership shows up in how you carry yourself. It's in the way you handle stress, the way you make decisions, and the way you guide a situation without forcing it. A real leader doesn't need to control a woman. He creates an environment where she feels safe, to relax, to be herself, to trust his direction because she feels his steadiness. That kind of presence is magnetic, and it earns more respect than any loud, aggressive attempt at control ever could. Women don't want to feel like they're being managed. They want to feel like they're with someone who knows who he is and where he's going, and who invites them to be part of that journey, not as an accessory, but as a partner. And when you lead with humility and strength, not ego, you create a dynamic where mutual respect naturally grows. Leadership also means emotional regulation. When conflict arises, a real leader doesn't escalate, he de-escalates. He creates space for conversation, not chaos. He's the one who keeps the room calm when things get heated. He leads by example, by showing patience, by listening first, by choosing his words carefully. That makes people feel safe, and when someone feels safe with you, they trust you. And where there's trust, there's deep respect. Now, leadership isn't about being perfect or knowing everything. It's about being willing to take responsibility for your actions, for your future, and sometimes even for the emotions in the room. That doesn't mean carrying everyone's weight. It means not pointing fingers when things go wrong. A man who leads owns his decision. He makes thoughtful choices and takes accountability when needed, without blaming others or avoiding hard conversations. That kind of emotional maturity sets him apart. That's the kind of man women feel proud to stand beside. And let's be honest, some men are afraid to lead because they think it means becoming someone else, or being cold, or acting alpha. But leadership doesn't mean dominating. It means anchoring. It means being the one people can lean on when things get uncertain, and that includes your partner. Women deeply respect a man who can guide